The transmission arrived at 300 hours, Earth Standard Time. Most would have missed it. A coded burst that sliced through humanity's communication networks like a whisper of impending doom. But Captain Miranda Chen wasn't most people. Her quarters aboard the experimental vessel Prometheus were unlike any other space in human military history. Holographic displays danced around her, each one a testament to technologies that defied conventional understanding. The walls themselves were alive with adaptive nanocircuitry, capable of reconfiguring at a moment's notice. A half-empty cup of coffee sat next to a stack of quantum computational matrices, her latest project. When the Zentari message came through, Miranda's augmented neural implant processed it before the standard communication systems could even begin to decode the alien language. Her lips curled into a sardonic smile. The Zentari collective had finally shown their hand. Attention, Earth governance. The translated message read, each word dripping with condescension. Your species has been deemed a potential threat to galactic stability. You will surrender all technological and territorial rights within the next standard solar cycle. Resistance is mathematically improbable. Compliance ensures minimal casualties. Miranda knew the history. Humanity had been a footnote in galactic politics for decades. First contact had occurred 15 years ago, when the Zentari exploration fleet discovered Earth during a routine stellar mapping mission. They had viewed humans with the same detached curiosity one might reserve for an interesting but ultimately inconsequential biological specimen. But Miranda knew something the Zentari didn't. The Prometheus wasn't just a ship. It was the culmination of humanity's most radical technological leap, a vessel that blurred the lines between machine, artificial intelligence, and living organism. Developed in the secret research stations buried deep beneath the Atacama Desert, the ship represented a quantum leap in technological innovation that made the Zentari's most advanced systems look like children's toys. She pulled up the ship's diagnostic interface. Each system pulsed with a living energy. Adaptive algorithms that could learn, predict, and transform faster than any known technological construct in the known universe. The ship was more than a weapon. It was a living, breathing extension of human potential. Miranda's fingers traced the holographic controls. Her neural implant synchronized with the ship's core, a connection so intimate that the boundary between human and machine became meaningless. Years of training, decades of scientific breakthrough, generations of human innovation, all converged in this moment. The Zentari thought they were issuing an ultimatum. They didn't realize they were lighting the fuse of their own destruction. Outside the ship's quantum-shielded hull, Earth waited, wounded by previous alien encounters, but not broken. A planet of survivors, of innovators, of individuals who had always found a way to push beyond impossible limitations. Miranda Chen opened a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. Her voice was calm, almost clinical. Prometheus is ready. Let them come. The challenge had been issued. The game was about to begin. The void of space erupted with light. 200 Zentari warships emerged from hyperspace in a perfect geometric formation, a mathematical display of technological precision that had crushed countless civilizations before. Their hulls gleamed with adaptive metamaterials, weapons arrays that could vaporize entire planetary surfaces, and computational systems that had mapped millions of potential combat scenarios. But they had never mapped a scenario involving the Prometheus. On the bridge, Captain Miranda Chen stood perfectly still. Her neural interface hummed softly, a subtle vibration that connected her consciousness directly to the ship's quantum core. Around her, holographic displays flickered with impossible data streams, not just tracking the incoming fleet, but predicting their movements with terrifying accuracy. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, her tactical officer, broke the silence. 200 ships, Captain. Zentari Alpha-class battle formation. Weapon signatures charging. His voice carried a hint of tension, quickly suppressed by years of military training. They think we're prey, Miranda responded, her words barely above a whisper. The Zentari fleet's communication channels blazed with contempt. Translated real-time displays showed their commanders broadcasting an open channel, a traditional ritual before total annihilation. Humanity's lone vessel, the alien commander's voice dripped with condescension. You have exactly 3 standard minutes to power down and prepare for boarding. Resistance is statistically impossible. Miranda's smile was razor-sharp. The first wave of energy weapons fired. Plasma torpedoes, each capable of turning a small moon into vapor, streaked towards the Prometheus. Any conventional ship would have been vaporized instantly. But the Prometheus was anything but conventional. Space itself seemed to ripple. The incoming weapons didn't just miss. They twisted, redirected by quantum fields that defied known physics. Some torpedoes returned to their original launchers. Others simply disappeared, translated into different dimensional planes. The Zentari fleet's perfect formation began to fracture. Adaptive resonance field at 98% efficiency, Marcus reported, a note of disbelief in his voice. The ship wasn't just defending. It was learning, analyzing, transforming with each millisecond of engagement. Miranda's neural link pulsed. The Prometheus was more than a ship. It was a living weapon that understood combat as a dynamic, ever-changing equation. Where the Zentari saw rigid battle protocols, the human vessel saw infinite possibilities. The first Zentari ships began to break formation. Confusion spread through their communication networks. Their most advanced targeting systems were going haywire, unable to lock onto a target that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. "They don't understand," Miranda murmured, more to herself than anyone else. They'd never encountered a truly adaptive system. Outside, space became a canvas of impossible maneuvers. The Prometheus moved not like a ship, but like a quantum ghost. Here, then there, then somewhere that shouldn't mathematically exist. The Zentari had declared war, expecting a swift, decisive victory. They were about to learn the true meaning of human innovation. The quantum core of the Prometheus pulsed like a living heart. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez watched in stunned silence as the ship's adaptive systems began their true work. This wasn't just defense. It was technological warfare beyond anything humanity, or the Zentari had ever conceived. Initiating Quantum Adaptive Response Protocol, Miranda's voice was calm, almost clinical. Her neural interface merged completely with the ship's systems, transforming the Prometheus into something more than a mere vessel. A sentient weapon of unimaginable complexity. The first wave of Zentari ships experienced impossible failures. Shield harmonics began to collapse from within. Weapon systems turned against their own vessels. Communication networks became labyrinthine traps that devoured information faster than the aliens could comprehend. A Zentari cruiser, a vessel that had decimated entire civilizations, suddenly found its primary weapon redirecting. The massive energy cannon, capable of splitting moons, swung back towards its own fleet. In a brilliant flash of destructive energy, it obliterated 3 support ships before the remaining vessels could react. Quantum entanglement breach complete, Marcus reported, his fingers dancing across interfaces that looked more like living neural networks than traditional controls. We're rewriting their entire tactical ecosystem in real time. Miranda understood something the Zentari didn't. Warfare wasn't just about destruction. It was about understanding. Each millisecond, the Prometheus was learning, adapting, transforming the very rules of engagement. Zentari commanders watched in horror as their most sophisticated algorithms became useless. Their ships, pinnacles of technological achievement, were being transformed into nothing more than floating debris. The Prometheus moved through space like a predator, not with brute force, but with an intelligence that seemed to predict and manipulate reality itself. Target acquisition protocols compromised. The ship's AI announced, its voice a perfect blend of human inflection and machine precision, redirecting enemy computational resources. Estimated fleet combat effectiveness, 12.3% and falling. The battle wasn't just being fought with weapons. It was a war of understanding, of adaptation, of pushing the boundaries of what technology could achieve. Each Centauri ship that attacked found its most advanced systems turned against it. Shield frequencies were instantaneously decoded and neutralized. Weapon trajectories were predicted and redirected before they could be fired. Communication channels became intricate traps that consumed and redirected information. "They're trying to understand our tactics," Miranda said, a hint of amusement in her voice. "But they're looking at a language they can't comprehend." The Prometheus wasn't just fighting. It was teaching a brutal lesson about the nature of innovation, of human potential. Where the Centauri saw rigid protocols, the human vessel saw an infinite landscape of possibilities. Whole squadrons of alien ships began to break formation. Panic spread through their communication networks, an emotion that transcended species. They were facing something beyond their comprehension, a technological entity that didn't just fight, but fundamentally reimagined the concept of combat. Marcus let out a low whistle. They never saw this coming. Miranda's response was simple and devastating. No one ever does. Space became a canvas of impossible maneuvers, of redirected energy, of technological warfare that rewrote the very understanding of conflict. The Centauri had declared war, expecting a quick victory. They were about to learn the true meaning of human innovation. The Prometheus's quantum core began to sing. It wasn't a sound in the traditional sense, not something that could be heard through conventional audio systems. It was a mathematical harmony, a complex algorithmic melody that translated the very fabric of technological possibility into a weapon more devastating than any cannon. Captain Miranda Chen closed her eyes, her neural interface vibrating with a rhythm that transcended human perception. Each pulse was a calculated note in a symphony of destruction that the Centauri could never comprehend. "Initiating full-spectrum technological deconstruction," she murmured. The ship's adaptive systems began their most intricate performance. Where previous engagements had been mere prelude, this was the main composition, a technological masterpiece that would redefine the concept of warfare. Centauri ships found their most advanced systems turning against them. Quantum encryption codes became unraveling threads. Sophisticated AI networks transformed into labyrinths that consumed their own processing power. Shield generators began to emit frequencies that tore their own protective barriers apart. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez watched in awe as the ship's interfaces transformed. What had begun as standard military controls now looked like living, breathing ecosystems of information. Data streams twisted and merged, creating patterns that no alien computational system could hope to understand. Adaptive resonance at 99.7%, the ship's AI announced. Technological assimilation complete. It wasn't just about destroying ships. The Prometheus was learning, consuming, transforming the very technological DNA of the Centauri fleet. Each system it touched became a part of its own vast, incomprehensible network. A massive Centauri command vessel, the pride of their entire fleet, suddenly went dark. But dark wasn't the right word. It was more like the ship had been completely absorbed, its technological essence stripped down and reimagined through a lens of human innovation. "They're trying to fight back," Marcus observed, watching the alien fleet's desperate attempts to counter the Prometheus's assault. Miranda's laugh was cold and precise. Fighting back implies they understand what they're up against. The battle had transformed from a traditional space conflict to something entirely new. The Prometheus moved through the Centauri fleet like a predator, not of flesh and blood, but of pure technological potential. Each movement was a calculated strike. Each system breached a note in an increasingly complex composition. Centauri communication networks collapsed in real time. Their most advanced encryption became transparent. Their tactical algorithms reduced to simple, predictable patterns. The ship wasn't just defeating their technology. It was teaching them the true meaning of innovation. "Quantum entanglement at maximum efficiency," the AI reported. Enemy technological infrastructure approaching total systemic collapse. Space itself seemed to bend around the Prometheus. Weapon systems that should have been impossible became reality. Shield technologies that took civilizations millennia to develop were decoded and neutralized in milliseconds. Marcus couldn't help but whisper, "My God, they never stood a chance." Miranda's response was a study in calculated precision. "They made a fundamental mistake. They thought technology was something you own. We know it's something you become." The technological symphony reached its crescendo. The Zentari fleet, once the most feared force in the galaxy, was being reduced to nothing more than raw data, rewritten and reimagined through the lens of human potential. They had declared war. They were about to learn the true cost of underestimating humanity. The Zentari Command Center descended into chaos. Grand Admiral Vornak stared at the holographic displays, his multifaceted eyes unable to process the impossible scenario unfolding before him. Decades of military strategy, centuries of technological supremacy, all crumbling in real time against a single human vessel. "Report," he demanded, his voice a combination of electronic modulation and biological rage. The communication officer's tentacles trembled. "Sir, our ships, they're not just being destroyed. They're being reprogrammed, converted. It's like the vessel is alive, thinking, adapting faster than our most advanced AI can comprehend." The Prometheus wasn't just winning a battle. It was dismantling the very concept of technological warfare. Each Zentari ship that engaged became a case study in systematic breakdown. Weapon systems would suddenly redirect, shield harmonics would collapse from within, and communication networks would transform into intricate traps that consumed their own data faster than they could process information. "How is this possible?" Vornak whispered, a rare moment of vulnerability breaking through his carefully constructed facade of superiority. The answer was simple, though the Zentari couldn't understand it. Humanity didn't just create technology. They'd breathed life into it. On the Prometheus's bridge, Captain Miranda Chen watched the psychological impact of their assault. This wasn't just about destroying ships. It was about breaking an entire civilization's understanding of technological conflict. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez tracked the cascading system failures. "Psychological degradation of enemy fleet at 67% and rising," he reported. "They're losing cohesion faster than their computational systems can adapt." The Zentari had conquered hundreds of civilizations. They had reduced entire species to technological footnotes. They had believed themselves to be the ultimate expression of technological evolution. They were about to learn their first and final lesson about human potential. Panic spread through the alien fleet like a virus. Ships that had once moved in perfect geometric formations now collided, their crews unable to comprehend the fundamental breakdown of their technological superiority. Communication channels became labyrinths of misinformation, each transmission more confusing than the last. "They're experiencing technological trauma," Miranda observed, her voice clinical and detached. "We're not just defeating them. We're fundamentally challenging their entire understanding of technological warfare." The Prometheus moved through space like a quantum predator, not with brute force, but with an intelligence that seemed to predict and manipulate reality itself. Where the Zentari saw rigid protocols, the human vessel saw an infinite landscape of possibilities. Grand Admiral Vornak realized the true horror of their situation. This wasn't just a battle. It was the complete deconstruction of everything the Zentari believed about technological supremacy. "We are being unmade," he whispered, a truth that would echo through the galaxy. The psychological warfare reached its peak. The Zentari fleet, once the most feared force in the known universe, was being reduced to a collection of confused, terrified vessels, their technological supremacy exposed as nothing more than a fragile illusion. They had declared war on humanity. They were about to learn the true meaning of innovation. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. 97 Zentari ships remained, a fraction of the once proud fleet that had entered the engagement with absolute certainty of victory. Each vessel now drifted like a wounded animal, systems failing, crews paralyzed by a terror beyond comprehension. "Tactical analysis," Captain Miranda Chen's voice cut through the bridge's tension like a quantum blade. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez's fingers danced across interfaces that looked more like living neural networks than traditional controls. Centauri fleet combat effectiveness, 8.2% and falling. They're approaching total systemic collapse. The Prometheus wasn't just winning. It was dissecting the very concept of technological warfare. Grand Admiral Vornak's flagship, the Eternal Dominance, represented the last hope of the Centauri collective. Its quantum core was the most advanced in their entire fleet, a technological marvel that had crushed countless civilizations. Now it was being unmade by a single human vessel. "Initiate final protocol," Vornak commanded, his voice a mixture of desperation and technological modulation. But protocols meant nothing against the Prometheus. As the flagship activated its most advanced defensive systems, the human vessel did something impossible. It didn't just counter the defense, it began to rewrite it. Quantum encryption codes unraveled like delicate threads. Shield harmonics twisted into impossible configurations. Weapon systems turned into complex mathematical puzzles that consumed themselves. Adaptive resonance at maximum efficiency, the Prometheus's AI announced, its voice a perfect blend of human precision and machine intelligence. Space itself seemed to bend around the human vessel. Weapon trajectories became living things, redirecting, splitting, merging in patterns that defied known physics. The Centauri watched in horror as their most advanced technologies became nothing more than raw data to be reshaped at will. Marcus couldn't help but whisper, "They never stood a chance." Miranda's response was calculated and cold. "They made a fundamental mistake. They thought technology was a weapon. We know it's a language." The breaking point came suddenly and absolutely. The Eternal Dominance, flagship of the Centauri collective, began to come apart. But coming apart wasn't accurate. It was being systematically deconstructed, its technological essence stripped down and reimagined through a lens of human innovation that the aliens could never comprehend. Vornak's final transmission was a study in technological despair. "What are you?" The question hung in space, a universal cry of incomprehension. The Prometheus's response was silent but devastating. Each system of the Centauri flagship was being transformed, repurposed, turned into something entirely new. It wasn't destruction. It was complete technological rebirth. Enemy flagship systems approaching total conversion, the AI reported. Across the galaxy, civilizations would later speak of this moment. The day a single human vessel redefined the very understanding of technological conflict. The day humanity showed that innovation wasn't just about creating technology. It was about understanding it at a fundamental level that transcended traditional comprehension. The Centauri had declared war. They were about to become a lesson in the true potential of human innovation. Silence descended. The battlefield, once a chaotic expanse of alien technology and destructive potential, now hung motionless. Fragments of Centauri ships drifted like broken dreams, their once proud technological marvel reduced to cosmic debris. Captain Miranda Chen's fingers hovered over the communication interface. This wasn't just a moment of victory. It was a declaration. "Prepare broadcast," she commanded. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez looked up, a mix of anticipation and respect in his eyes. He understood this wasn't about celebration. This was about sending a message that would echo across the galaxy. The Prometheus's communication systems came alive, not with weapons, but with something far more powerful. A transmission that would redefine how every spacefaring civilization would view humanity. Quantum encrypted channels opened. Multiple frequency bands activated simultaneously. The message would penetrate every known communication network, translated in real time across countless alien languages and communication protocols. Grand Admiral Vornak's surviving communication systems, barely functional, would be forced to receive every single word. To the Centauri collective, Miranda began, her voice calm and precise. "You made a fundamental mistake." The transmission continued, each word carefully chosen, each sentence a surgical strike of philosophical and technological brilliance. "You viewed technology as a weapon of conquest. We view it as a language of potential. You sought to subjugate. We seek to understand. Your fleet approached believing in mathematical certainty. We operate in the realm of infinite possibility. Across damaged ship interfaces, alien crews listened in stunned silence. This isn't about victory, the message continued. This is about demonstrating the true nature of human innovation. We didn't just defeat you. We transformed the very concept of technological conflict. The Prometheus's quantum core pulsed, embedding additional layers of information within the transmission. Not just words, but complex algorithmic signatures that would continue to challenge and deconstruct Centauri technological understanding long after the message ended. Marcus watched the transmission metrics. Full galactic coverage confirmed. Every major communication network is receiving the broadcast. Each word was more than communication. It was a philosophical weapon more devastating than any physical assault. The Centauri were being taught a lesson that would reshape their entire civilization's understanding of technological potential. We are not your enemy, Miranda's voice concluded. We are a reminder that true innovation transcends conflict. Understand this, or be left behind. The transmission ended. In that moment, humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was sending a message to every civilization watching. A declaration that technological supremacy wasn't about destruction, but about understanding, adaptation, and potential. The Prometheus had done more than win a battle. It had rewritten the rules of engagement. Across the galaxy, civilizations would debate this moment for generations. The day a single human vessel showed that innovation was the most powerful weapon in existence. They had declared war. Humanity had answered. 48 hours after the battle, Earth changed forever. The transmission of the Prometheus's victory had spread faster than light itself, a quantum ripple of human potential that transformed every understanding of technological conflict. In research centers, military installations, and government facilities across the planet, humanity witnessed something unprecedented. Captain Miranda Chen stood before the Global Scientific Council, her neural interface still faintly humming with the Prometheus's residual energy. The council chamber, once a place of bureaucratic debates, now felt like a crucible of transformation. "This is more than a victory," she announced. "This is our declaration to the universe." The Prometheus wasn't just a ship. It had become a symbol, a living testament to human innovation that transcended traditional understanding of technology, warfare, and potential. Quantum research facilities that had been marginalized for decades now found themselves at the center of global attention. Young scientists who had been told their radical theories were impossible now stood vindicated. The ship's technological breakthrough meant more than a military victory. It was a complete reimagining of technological possibility. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez presented the initial data analysis. Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing how the Prometheus had effectively reverse-engineered entire technological ecosystems during the battle. Each system breach was a lesson in adaptation, in understanding technology as a living, breathing entity. The Centauri's most advanced technologies were now being studied, decoded, transformed. What had been an act of defense was becoming humanity's greatest leap of scientific understanding. "We didn't just defend," Miranda explained. "We evolved." Global communication networks buzzed with a new energy. Universities reopened dormant research programs. Funding for quantum computing, adaptive technologies, and interdimensional research exploded. The battle had done more than repel an invasion. It had ignited humanity's greatest potential. Alien civilizations watching the transmission understood something fundamental. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were a force of innovation that could rewrite the very rules of technological engagement. The Prometheus itself underwent transformation. No longer just a military vessel, it became a research platform, a living laboratory that continued to adapt, to learn, to push the boundaries of what technology could achieve. "This is our moment," Miranda told the council, "not of conquest, but of understanding." Diplomatic channels from various alien civilizations began to open, not with threats, but with cautious respect. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer an unknown quantity. They were a civilization that could turn technological conflict into a form of communication, of understanding. The ship's quantum core, once a weapon, now became a beacon of possibility. Research teams worked around the clock, understanding that they had been given more than a technological breakthrough. They had been given a new way of seeing the universe. Marcus looked at Miranda, a smile of understanding passing between them. They had done more than win a battle. They had transformed humanity's place in the cosmos. As the sun set on Earth, something had fundamentally changed. The planet that had once been seen as a minor, inconsequential species was now a civilization that could rewrite the rules of technological engagement. They had been declared war upon. They had answered with innovation. The universe would never be the same.